Okay, hello everyone. This is the CWG book group or anything else written by Neil Donald Walsh group. And I am Nanette Kennedy from Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution. And we are reading Friendship with God. And what did you say the page number was? Because I'm reading from a Kindle.
I show it as
142.
right.
The words he said, that is very true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I didn't know if Shabana, if you wanted to do a short, like 2-minute meditation for peace for what's going on around the world, or if you want to wait till later.
No, let's do it now. What's making me really sad is that they're all claiming like it didn't hurt. I mean, the Americans are acting like it's nothing, and the Syrians are acting like, they didn't get us. So the lies round around. I mean, the Americans are not looking good, and neither is anyone else, because you don't end war with bombings. So yeah, let's just give that a start. Can hear you.
Let me add something really quick, and I think I may have said this last week. I don't know. This is a really difficult place for the world to be in right now, because Mr. Trump is a Trump. Also, we had to learn the hard way when we didn't go in to World War II until much later, and so many Jews and non-Jews were killed. So I think this is a really difficult place for us to be when somebody's attacking their own people. And I just wanted to get that said. And I don't have the answers, but anyway, why don't you, unless somebody else wants to add to that, we'll go ahead and start the meditation. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Lord God, there's only one ancient truth that ever comes to my mind, and almost 3,000 years ago. Hatreds never cease with hatreds in the world. By love alone they cease. And this is an ancient law. This was an ancient law 3,000 years ago. So it's not a matter of using our minds. It's the heart, the love. It's only goodwill, which is the glue that binds the universes, and our judgment of the so-called lies that everyone is speaking is not love. What we need is to accept and love everyone, particularly the principal actors in this drama, because it's all drama, all illusion. And as a group, right here, right now, we tap into your heart with every one of our hearts, because you have brought us here to speak love round and round. Amen.
Thank you, Shabana, and everyone.
Thank you, Nanette. It's just really strange and paradoxical what I got while I was meditating is that what the group did together was to love the hatred.
Well, that's the only choice we have.
Agreed.
Could I add something?
Absolutely.
I agree with Shabana. I was wondering, is sharing, but for me it is loving the pain behind the hatred, because the hatred only comes second. There's always pain and suffering or fear before the hatred. So I would just suggest we open our hearts to the pain and suffering of the hatred. That's all.
Yes, you got that right. Yeah, thank you very much. You got to the core of it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate your prayer.
I would just draw your attention because on Neil's quote from his book 1, Meditations from Conversations with God, book 1, on April the 13th, was the reason that the true master does not complain is that the true master is not suffering, but simply experiencing a set of circumstances that you would call insufferable. That's on page 107 of book 1.
Thank you for that.
I'm going to check that out. Thank you.
Okay. If anybody has something else they want to add about this, or shall we begin?
Yeah, I can say something
Yes.
about this oneness, because we are uniting because of this oneness. And what I have seen, that who to blame really, because it's programs running in people's mind, and separation, identification with separation, and we can be in that field to contribute to the, as I call it, unconditional oneness, which is beyond separation, and the whole humanity needs to come there, and this is why we are here. That's how I feel, and that is, yeah, like Jesus said, if it's true, I don't know about that. Forgive them, God forgive them, they don't know what they are doing. And that is, no one knows it, because we are not evil. Life is not evil. Life is not evil. Life is uniting and unfolding. So I will go deeper, and I think that's true, to love the pain, to go beyond even the pain and go to the love. We are women here now, only women, as it looks like, that all these soldiers or those who are killed are being born from a woman's womb. So maybe we can love this energy back to where to be united in a way that I think we are needed. Not only women, but women have a key role to play in this process. That's what I feel. So thank you. It was a very beautiful meditation, and thank you for putting attention on this issue, because it's part of our life. We are involved. We are all connected. Yeah, that was my reflections.
Yep. Thank you.
Mm.
Well, the other nice thing about having a group of people that you can speak to about something like this is it can get you reeled back in, instead of being in a panic zone and worrying about my children and my grandchildren, and you know, does come from a place of fear. And we will get through this one way or the other. And I can never get this quote right that Neil says, is that in the eye of the beholder of whatever action is taking place, that person believes, because of a set of circumstances, that his or her actions are okay. And it's not that they're thinking, I'm going to go do something horrible, I'm hoping, but it's from their view of the world, and that's how they act. Over.
So I'd like to share this thing. And I'm here.
We can't hear you, Linda.
Okay. Now.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. I don't want this video either, though, because that's the one that's moving around. Stop video. Okay. I think this should be right.
Okay.
So I wanted to share this thing that came through while I was, while we were doing the meditation. It says, so you know who fixes what's wrong in this world right now? You, and you. All of us, each of us individually, is how we fix what's wrong. Right now, it seems like most people are looking outward for somebody else to fix what's wrong, except that that's not how life works. When you look outward, it's a reflection of what you hold inward. And so if we want love, if we want peace, if we want compassion, these things will start first and come first from within ourselves. And so we have to love everybody and everything that's happening. And model that so that other people can see that it's possible. We have to be the Christ walking in this world, each of us. That's our job right now, is for every single one of us, men and women. But there are obviously way more women right now, which is the way it should be, because it's the balancing out of the two energies. That's what came through.
Thank you, Linda.
And thank you, everyone, because there aren't very many people or places where I could say any of that and not be thought a lunatic.
Actually, Linda, your quivering voice makes you much less of a lunatic.
I knew she was coming up with something.
Because it's your compassion that always shines through. It's your expression and your giant heart that we respond to.
Thank you.
Leave it up to Shavana.
Yeah. So just keep on lunaticking, please.
I could tell by the look on your face, Shavana, that you were.
I know.
The wheels were turning.
Yep. They were turning.
Here we go. All right. Anybody else before we start to read?
Wow. That was a good cry.
Yep.
Well, I just want to blame you, Nanette, for starting the meditation. That was your idea.
I take full responsibility.
I'm glad to hear it.
All right. I think we have quite a few pages to read, so we probably ought to get started.
Get going. Okay, this is Friendship with God, an Uncommon Dialogue. And I'm going to just back up and read the very last thing that Neil said before we start on page 142. This is Neil speaking. Yes, given where I say I wanted to go, I see now that I've always been choosing to be a teacher, a raiser of consciousness among people, and that my whole life has been a preparation for that. That's very true. But I was angry with you about things that I myself created. I didn't understand that you were simply giving me the tools, the right and perfect people, places, and events to prepare myself for the experience of my choosing. That's all right. Don't worry about it. As I said, it's common. Now you know. So now, just stop being angry about your life, about anything in your life. See it all as perfect. Do you think I can? Do you think you can? Yeah, I think I can. Well, then you can. But it would have been nice to know then what I know now. You know now. Let that be enough. My father used to say, so old, so soon, so smart, so late. I remember that. Do you think I took that one in too deeply? Well, what do you think? I think I did, but I'm tossing it out right now. Good. So get back to where I stepped in again, as you put it, allowing you to prepare yourself more and more for the work you'd already decided to do in the world. Well, after I experienced what I came to the radio station to experience, I promptly got myself removed from there too. It all happened very suddenly. One day I was asked by the station to leave the program director's job and come on and become an on-the-road salesman of airtime. I think the owners felt that I was not doing as well as they'd hoped as a PD, but they didn't want to fire me outright, so they gave me this chance to stay employed. Now, I don't think there's a tougher job in the world than that of a time salesman for a radio or television station. I was constantly begging for a moment of some businessman's day in order to make my pitch, and then trying as hard as I could to convince him to do something that he really didn't want to do. And then I had to work doubly hard to please him by writing snappy, effective copy once he did capitulate and spend a few dollars on a commercial. And finally, I'd worry my head off that there would be results so that he would continue advertising. I was working on a draw against commission, as most time salespeople do, and each week that I didn't earn my draw, I felt guilty for being paid for something I wasn't doing, and frantic that I was going to be fired. This didn't exactly produce an attitude of joy as I went off to work each morning. I remember sitting in my car one day in the parking lot of a shopping center where I was to make a cold call. Oh, I hated cold calls. I hated my new job, and I hated myself for getting myself into it, even though it didn't seem that I had much choice. I'd married just before going down south, and my first child was now on the way. Sitting in that car, miserable and furious, I banged on the steering wheel with my fists, once again demanding of God, this time actually screaming out loud, "Get me out of this!" Someone walked by the car and looked at me strangely and then quickly opened the door. "What's the matter? You lock yourself in?" I smiled sheepishly, pulled myself together, and trudged into the store. I asked if I could see the manager and owner, and was asked in return, "Are you a salesman?" When I said yes, I was told, "He can't see you now." That happened a lot, and I'm a salesman were words I began to abhor. I dragged myself back to the car, driving straight home, and rather than to the next prospect, I couldn't take it another day, yet I didn't have the courage to quit. That morning, as the alarm buzzed, it was an awful buzz. I turned over with a jerk, angrily reaching for the off button. That's when the pain hit me. It's as if someone had stabbed me in the back. I couldn't move an inch without absolute agony. My wife called our family doctor and handed me the phone. The nurse asked if I could come into the office. I don't think so, I winced. I can't move. So believe it or not, the doctor came to my house. I had a collapsed disc, the doctor said, and it would take 8 to 12 weeks to heal, during which time I was to stay off my feet as much as possible. I would probably have to be placed into traction. I called my boss and I told him the next day I was fired. I'm sorry, Tom allowed, but we just can't keep paying you on a draw against future commissions for 3 months. It would take you a year to pay that off. It's a tough break, but we're going to have to let you go. Yeah, I echoed, tough break. I could hardly keep the smile off my face. I'd been given a legitimate reason for leaving my job. It was a cruel world, but that's the way the ball bounces sometime. That was my worldview, the myth I grew up with. It never occurred to me that I'd created all of this, that the cruel world was a world of my own construction. This realization that might call self-realization came much later. After only 5 weeks, I found myself feeling much better. Surprise, surprise. The doctor said my recovery was going faster than expected and cautioned against pushing myself, gave me the go-ahead for occasional trips out of the house. It wasn't a moment too soon. We were skimping by on my wife's salary as a physical therapist, and it was clear that before long I was going to have to find something to do for a living. But what could I do? There were no jobs in radio to be had in Baltimore or back in good old Annapolis, and I'd never done anything else. Of course, there was that bit of writing for the high school weekly back in Milwaukee, but surely that wasn't credentialed enough to get a real newspaper job. But again, I'm reminded of how God works as our best friend, supporting us in getting us where we say we want to go, giving us the tools with which to create the experiences that will serve us in moving us to greater and greater awareness and ultimately prepare us to express who we really are. Taking a gamble, I went into the offices of the Evening Capital, Annapolis's daily newspaper. I asked to see Jay Jackson, then the managing editor, and unlike Larry LaRue, begged him for a job. Fortunately, I was not completely unknown to Jay, my days in Annapolis radio having brought me a bit of notoriety. I told him that I'd lost my job in Baltimore because of my health. And I let him know that my wife was pregnant. And I said, Mr. Jackson, the truth is I need work, any kind of work. I'll wash the floors. I'll be a copy boy, anything. Jay listened very quietly from behind his desk. And when I finished, he said nothing. I imagined that he was trying to think of how he could get me out of there. Instead, he finally asked me, do you know how to write? I wrote for my high school paper, and I had some journalism in college. Yes, sir. I answered hopefully. I think I can put a few sentences together. After another pause, Jay said, all right, you can start tomorrow. I'm going to put you in the newsroom. You're going to be writing obituaries and church news and club notices. Nothing you can screw up too badly. I'll be reading your stuff. We'll see how you work out for a couple of weeks. If it doesn't pan out, there'll be no harm done, and you'll have made yourself a few dollars. If you show me something, we'll have ourselves another staff writer. As it happens, we're one man short right now. Surprise, surprise. Now, nothing can give you a liberal education faster than being a newspaper reporter, especially at the paper of record in a small town, because you cover everything. Everything. One day you're interviewing the governor, the next you're doing a feature on the new Little League coach. Now catch the tie-in here. See the beauty of the design. I've always wanted to be a communicator of God's love. At first I was confused, and later I became disaffected by all the teachings about God of fear. I knew that this couldn't be the real God, and my heart ached to bring people to an awareness of what I felt in my heart. And at some level, I must have known I was destined to do that, and also known exactly what it would take to do that. A part of me, my soul maybe, must have known that I would be dealing with people from all backgrounds and all experiences, and all interacting with them in deeply personal ways. And to do this requires highly developed communication skills and a rich exposure to people from various cultures and walks of life. I'm not surprised now that I spent my early work life honing exactly those skills, first in broadcasting, moving south where I was exposed myself to the racial attitudes foreign to me, and then going to work in an environment which I could understand that prejudice from the inside out. And finally, creating a medical condition that allowed me to start a new career of delving into everything from the grisly police blotter to what makes the town's new Presbyterian pastor tick. When I was living these moments, I called some of them good luck and some of them bad luck. But now, from my present vantage point, I see that they were all a part of the same process. The process of life itself, of me becoming. I've learned to judge not, and neither condemn, but to accept with equanimity the experiences of my life, knowing that all things happen in their perfect way, at their perfect time. I don't know when it was during my first month at the newspaper that I'd officially been hired. I was too busy writing obituaries and church news and tidying up the press releases that came in from the Boy Scout troops and the community theaters and the Kiwanis and Lions clubs. But one morning, I found a note on my desk, handwritten in bold red felt-tip strokes. Please accept a $50 a week weekly increase. J. I was permanent. Everyone in the newsroom turned to look at me as I said, quite out loud, "All right." A few of the old-timers smiled. They must have guessed, or maybe they'd been told already. I was one of them. It hadn't taken me long to remember how much I'd loved newspaper writing from my high school days. And now here I was in a real newsroom, typewriters clacking, yes, manual typewriters, the smell of ink and newsprint everywhere. 5 months after I started, I was given my first real beat covering the county government, which soon produced my first page one byline. What an exciting, joyful experience. I think only a newspaper reporter can appreciate what I was feeling in those days, the constant sense of exhilaration. Nothing has topped it since, save the moment I saw my name on the cover of a book. Now I've had some friends advise me not to include anything about that in these pages. They say that people will think less of me, that it will invalidate what has come through me if I admit that I am thrilled to see my name stamped on the binding of a published book. I guess I'm supposed to pretend that I'm very blasé about these things. None of it has affected me in the least, that I'm above it all, because as a spiritual messenger, I should be. But I don't believe that as a spiritual messenger, I can't be happy with what I'm doing or thrilled to pieces that it's going so well. It seems to me that spiritual enlightenment is not measured by how unaffected we are by rewards of the ego, but by how dependent we are on them for peace and happiness. Ego itself is not a bad thing. Only ego run amok. We would do well to be wary of an ego that controls us, but we might welcome an ego that propels us. In life, we are constantly propelling ourselves to our next greatest achievement. The ego is God's gift to us, just as is everything else in life. God has given us nothing that is not a treasure, and whether it shows up that way in our experience depends on how we use it. I'm convinced that ego, like money, has gotten a bad name, been given a bad rap. It's not ego or money or power or unbridled sexual pleasure that is bad. It is the misuse of these things, which does not benefit us, which does not speak of who we really are. If these things, in and of themselves, were bad, why would God have created them? So I am very okay with admitting that I was thrilled to see my first byline on the front page of the Evening Capital. And with acknowledging that, I am still thrilled today each time I see my name on the cover of a new book, even though I still find myself saying that these books were not written by me, but through me. You have written these books, and it is very okay to say that you have. It is not necessary for you or anyone else to hide your light under a bushel. I have made that point before. Unless you learn to acknowledge who you are and what you have done, you can never acknowledge others for who they are and what they have done. It is true that you have been inspired by me to put these principles into print. It is true that I have given you the words to write. Does that make it any less of your achievement? If it does, then you should not honor Thomas Jefferson for writing the Declaration of Independence, or Albert Einstein for articulating the theory of relativity, Madame Curie, Mozart, Rembrandt, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, or anyone else who has done anything of note in the history of the human race, because I inspired them all. My son, I cannot tell you how many people to whom I have given wonderful words to write, who have never written them. I cannot tell you how many people to whom I have given wonderful songs to sing, who have never sung them. Do you want the list of people to whom I have given gifts, who have never used them? You've used the gifts I've given you. And if that isn't something to be thrilled about, I don't know what is. You have a way of making people feel good about themselves just when they're tempted to start feeling bad. Only with those who listen, my friend. Only with those who listen. You'd be amazed at how many people are in the I am not to feel good about myself trap, or the no credit is to come to me belief system. The trick is not to do what you do for acknowledgement, but rather as an expression of who you are. Yet to be acknowledged for who you are does not make you less of that, but only makes you want to experience more of it. The true master knows this, which is why the true master acknowledges everyone for who they really are and encourages others to acknowledge themselves as well, and never to deny, in the name of modesty, the most magnificent aspects of self. Jesus announced himself and declared himself unequivocally to all who could hear. So too has every master who has ever walked your planet. Therefore, announce yourself. Declare yourself, then move fully into the beingness of that which you have declared. Recreate yourself anew in every moment of now in the grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. In this, I will be glorified for the glory of God is the glory of you, expressed wondrously indeed. Do you know what I like about you? You give people permission to feel the feelings they've always wanted to feel. You give people back to themselves. That's what friends are for. How could people not feel optimistic about themselves and about the world with someone like you around? You'd be surprised. Well, I've always been optimistic, even before I knew you as I know you now. Even when I thought that God was an angry, punishing God, it still seemed like he was on my side. I grew up thinking that because I was taught that. After all, I was both Catholic and American. Who could beat that, right? We were told as children that the Catholic Church was the one true church, and we were also told that God looked with special favor on the United States of America. We even stamped "In God We Trust" on our coins, and in the Pledge of Allegiance, we declared ourselves one nation under God. I considered myself very lucky being born into the best faith and the best country. How could anything I do go wrong? Yet this is the very teaching of superiority that has caused so much pain in your world. This idea deeply ingrained in a people that they are somehow better than others may give them an extra measure of confidence, but also, too, often translates, quote, "How can anything we do go wrong?" into "How can anything we do be wrong?" This is not self-confidence, but a dangerous brand of hubris that allows an entire population to believe itself to be in the right, no matter what it does or says. People of many faiths and nations have believed and taught this through the years, producing a righteousness so huge that it desensitized them to any other experience, including the abject suffering of others. If there is one thing which it would benefit you to remove from your various cultural myths, it's this idea that by means of some magic ingredient, you've been made better than some other humans, that yours is the superior race, or the superior faith, or the better country, or the better political system, the higher approach, or the higher way. I tell you this, the day that you cause cultures to do this is the day you change the world. The world is better. The world better is one of the most dangerous words, or the word better is one of the most dangerous words in your vocabulary, exceeding only by the word right. Both are connected, for it is because you think you are better that you think you are right. Yet, I have made no ethnic or cultural group my chosen people, and I have made no path to me the one true path. Neither have I singled out any nation or religion for special favor, nor given any gender or race superiority over another. Oh my God, would you please repeat that? Would you please say that again? I have made no ethnic or cultural group my chosen people, and I have made no path to me the one true path. Neither have I singled out any nation or religion for special favor, nor given any gender or race superiority over another. I invite every minister, every priest, every rabbi, every teacher, every guru, every master, every president, every prime minister, every king, every queen, every leader, every nation, every political party to issue one statement that would heal the world. Ours is not a better way. Ours is merely another way. Yeah, leaders would never say that. Parties could never announce that. The Pope, for heaven's sake, could never declare that. That would destroy the whole basis of the Catholic Church. Not that church. But many religions, not just that church, but many religions, my son, as I have already noted, most religions base their primary appeal on the idea that theirs is the one true path, and that to believe any other way is to risk eternal damnation. Thus, religions use fear rather than love to attract you. Yet that is the last reason I would ever have you come to me. Do you think that religions could affirm that? Do you think that nations could declare that? Do you think that political parties ever could make that statement a part of their platform? I say it again, it would change the world overnight if they did. Maybe then we could stop killing each other. Maybe then we could stop hating each other. Maybe then we could stop the Kosovos and the Auschwitzes and the endless religious wars in Ireland and the bitter racial strife in America and the ethnic and class and cultural prejudices around the world, which lead to so much cruelty and suffering. Yeah, maybe then you could. Maybe then we could ensure that there would never again be a Matthew Shepard beaten unmercifully and left to die, tied to a cattle fence in Wyoming because he was gay. Can't you say something about gay people? I've been asked over and over at lectures and appearances and retreats all over the world. Won't you say something to end once and for all the violence and the cruelty and the discrimination against gay men and women? So much of it is done in your name. So much of it is said to be justified by your teaching and your law. As I have said before, and as I will say again, there is no form and there is no manner in which the expression of love that is true and pure is inappropriate. I cannot be more equivocal than that, unequivocal than that. But how do you define love which is pure and true? It seeks to damage or hurt no one. It seeks to avoid the possibility of damage or hurt to anyone. How can we hope to know if someone else might possibly be hurt by an expression of love? Well, you may not be able to know in every case. And when you cannot know, you cannot know. Your motives are pure. Your intentions are good. Your love is true. Yet most times you can know, and most times you do. It is clear to you at these times how an expression of love could cause another to experience hurt. And at these times, you would do well to ask, what would love do now? Not just love for the current object of your affections, but love for all others as well. But such a ground rule could stop us from loving practically everyone. There's always someone who can claim that they'll be hurt by something someone else does in the name of love. Yes, nothing has generated more hurt among your species than the very thing that it was meant to heal. Why is that? You do not understand what love is. What is it? It is that which is without condition, without limitation, and without need. Because without condition, it requires nothing in order to be expressed. It asks nothing in return. It withdraws nothing in retaliation. Because it is without limitation, it places no limitation on another. It knows no ending, but goes on forever. It experiences no boundary or barrier. And because it is without need, it seeks to take nothing, not freely given. It seeks to hold nothing, not wishing to be held. It seeks to give nothing, not joyously welcomed. and it is free. Love is that which is free, for freedom is the essence of what God is, and love is God expressed.
Linda, are you still with us? Can anybody hear Linda?
We do experience it every time we connect with someone with whom we feel that sense of oneness. And the difficulty is we feel that sense of oneness with more than one person. Indeed, a highly evolved being feels it for everyone all of the time. How do they get away with that? Let me see if I understand the question. How do they get away with feeling a sense of oneness with everyone all of the time? Yeah, how are they able to do that without getting into trouble? What kind of trouble? Every kind of trouble there is. Unrequited love, unfulfilled expectations, jealous partners, you name it. You are bringing up a subject that will reveal the main reason there is pain and misery on your planet surrounding the experience called love. The main reason you find it so difficult to love each other. Of God. End of chapter.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
I've dropped the call twice for what it says unstable internet connection. Only momentarily though. You did a marvelous job reading as usual, Linda. And there are so many. I mean, I was crying when he was talking about Matthew Shepard.
Yeah.
Because Matthew Shepard died in the town I live in.
Oh
And
my God.
And there was so much hatred. And it was homecoming parade week, and the university here did something despicable. They made a float with Matthew Shepard tied to that fence.
Ugh.
And it was one of the frat houses. And they were banned forever, which they should have been. But this Reverend Phelps was running around at the hospital as the crow flies 2 miles from me. The parents were making reports for the press. This was after Matthew succumbed to his injuries. And this Reverend Phelps said, "You should know by now that your son is suffering in hell." I mean, it was one of the most ugly, sorry that I'm being judgmental about it, but I am, but it was one of the most lack of love situation. It was just horrible. Anyway, I digress because that's not the only good piece of, I mean, there's just so much. I think this back half of this chapter is really plump with incredible things. Over. Somebody else can go.
Yeah, it's very rich with nuggets
Mm-hmm.
of wisdom.
It seems quite timely also.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Some of which we already knew from from just studying Neil Donald Walsh, but it was a very rich chapter. Over.
I guess I would share that. It's beautiful being in this group. I really love it. And it's beautiful listening to conversations with God. I love the way you read it, Linda. And you read even though you are have a tough time being present, being a reader. But that's part of it, the good things too. For me personally, when we read this together, it brings my resonance into a field where I feel I understand these truths. And I know when I leave this group or whatever, all day long, I'm going to be challenged to keep my resonance at this level of consciousness. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
I think Linda said something a minute ago that I really agree with. There's some very timely things here, which I could have probably told you before I read this part. There would be, because there always are.
Yep.
But anyway, somebody else?
I will also say it's also incredibly synchronized. For example, today I hadn't seen that it was a meeting today. I just came home and put on the computer 10 minutes before it started, and I could have missed it. And then the reading, because what I have been done the last week. I had my birthday, 72, and it has been a lot of things around, meeting with people and meetings and so on. But I have also been reading through my writings that I've been writing for years. And somebody called me and said, "Oh, I found a scripture from you that you wrote 1999. And it helped me to overcome something. And I read it now, and oh my God, it's very much what we have been reading now is part of what I have been writing about. And I have been that person. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be seen. I'm Swedish, and in Sweden, you should not be anyone. Just, it's complete opposite to the US. You have the Jante law. So don't think you are anything. And I've held back all my writings just a little bit. And the one that made me publish, it was Professor Henryk Skolimowski, if you know, the eco-philosopher. And he died this week. He passed away. So I have been very much into that energy and seeing how much he inspired me to write. And my grandchildren, some of them, one came today and said, "You have to publish your writings." And just when we were reading that about being an instrument, that is exactly because it's not here, it's coming from somewhere. And all my poems and songs, I have a lot of them, but I've only used them when there is a special opportunity. But it is amazing. So this was telling me, okay, it confirmed me, don't hold back, use yourself as the instrument that you are. I've done it when I have been in situations where I was not seen so much, where I was just part of something bigger. But to be myself in that, it was incredible to read this. It was like, don't sleep, don't what you say, forget. I mean, I'm 72. I don't know how many years I have still on this planet. So make use of that time for the energy that we need to contribute. So this is fantastic to be with you here and hear these words just now. Yeah, that was coming from my heart. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bima. Just read the birthday messages that everyone's written to you.
What?
Happy birthday.
Because I think, you know, you're talking about the synchronicity that you turned on the computer and here you are. I believe that Joyce and you becoming regulars of this group, and for Sarah to be here with her father, with her mother just passing, and then the philosopher who was with you after he died. It just brought me to something that I'd like to read very quickly. This is the essence of one of my mystical lines, lineages, whatever. It says, "Give me freedom to fly without a shadow. Give me freedom to sing without an echo, and to love without leaving traces." So today we did the Swedish thing, is we sent out love to the world, and no one's going to know where it came from.
There you go.
Yep.
Just on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
I can also add that I found a poem in India many years ago, and as you know, my daughter passed away 14 years ago when she was only 33, and my father passed away when I was 14. So I have been facing dying very close to me in my life, and my son's father died when my son was 7, my eldest son, and so I have had to face it. But there came a poem. My mother became 99. She died very peacefully. I took care of her for 40 years. But
Wow.
then, anyway, she followed me everywhere, to India, to wherever, whatever I did. But anyway, I reminded me when you read this, Shabana, and I don't know if you can hear it, but I put music to it. It's like, to die is nothing but love in another form of the one that I am. If to die is bad, life wouldn't be. The life that's not seen is always free.
Wonderful.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
I haven't read the poem.
Beautiful.
I just put it, but that's how it is. And I think all these horrible things that are happening now, it's a pushing surrender to the deeper oneness. No fear. Go deeper than fear. Go deeper into this oneness. That's why we are here. Yeah.
Thank you. Linda, I knew you were at a funeral, and I wondered how much was stirring for you as you read.
I can't believe it. Hello? Okay.
Anyway, I just want to thank you for reading under the circumstances. And
Can you hear me? This is Anne.
yes, and we can hear you. Can you not hear me
Oh.
talking?
I can hear you. I've been trying to talk for a while on something, and I think I was on mute. I didn't know that. So
Okay.
I just wanted to add my voice to the group because I think it's been a very beautiful day, and a lot of beautiful things have created a field for when enough numbers, the morphogenic field, when there's enough numbers that hold the space, then that field is generated far from, like the 100th monkey, far from where you are, something else is affected, like the butterfly effect. But the thing that I see about this group that mostly touches me is that my feeling is that all of us live in our hearts, not our heads. Our heads are part of it all, but I'm just saying that walking in your heart and feeling is a spiritual way of life. And then it's through your heart that your soul is given all the things we talk about in thriving and becoming more. But what I've been seeing in my own life, having not died and being given like 20 years back and being where I am in my life, I feel like I'm a bridge. I'm a bridge between what was and what can be. I'm the holder or the bearer of the light of a new form of reality that's never been experienced before. And more people are beginning to see the bridge. They may not have stepped on it or whatever. And maybe that bridge is the difference between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. Because when we read Conversation with God, it's basically our perceptions and our ideas that create the way that we see things or we feel about things. And I'm just very touched by this group and very thankful to be a part of it. And one of these days I'll get a computer so you can see who I am. But I just wanted to add my voice to the beautiful voices of today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
We have to wrap it up. You know, Anne reminded me of something. We used to have a blog on the HT website, which we don't anymore because it was really hard to keep up with. And it was called Voices of Oneness. But I'm thinking maybe that title should be repurposed to over here. So
Nice.
we will see. We'll see. All right. I love everybody. And you're all in my hearts. I don't know who that is talking. It's Kirsten. All right. On that note, love
I'm
everybody.
heartbroken.
Is that right? Love you.
Okay.
Thank
Love
you
you.
so much,
Bye,
everyone.
things.
Oh,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you for the congratulations.